The Malevolence was a massive warship used by Count Dooku and General Grievous during the Clone Wars. Secretly designed on Pament by Grievous, whose original name was Kimanjai Shilal, the cruiser was built using the frame of a discarded starship from Horsch Kessel Drive Inc. At 4,845 meters long, the Malevolence was nearly 3 times the size of an Imperial Star Destroyer and powered by 16 massive engines. However, its huge size made hyperspace navigation through dense regions difficult, forcing it to rely on advanced sensors and navigation systems. The ship's most feared weapon was its mega ion cannon, which fired a massive electromagnetic pulse capable of disabling entire fleets at once. Once enemy ships were powerless, Separatist forces could board and salvage them without destroying valuable components. Despite its power, the weapon required a long recharge time, leaving the cruiser vulnerable. That weakness led to its destruction when Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker, and Padme Amidala infiltrated the ship and sabotaged its systems, causing it to crash into the dead moon of Antar. The Asserter-class Superstar Destroyer was one of the most intimidating warships in the arsenal of the Galactic Empire. Measuring 15,000 meters long, it was roughly the size of 10 Imperial Star Destroyers lined up end-to-end. Its engines prioritized sustained forward power over maneuverability, but the ship's immense shields allowed it to plow through hazards like asteroid fields without concern. The dreadnought carried an enormous arsenal, including heavy turbo lasers, ion cannons, tractor beams, and dozens of additional turbo laser batteries, giving it enough firepower to dominate nearly any battlefield. Only a handful were ever built at Quat Drive yards. During the Galactic Civil War, 2 of the most notable were the Asserter and the Wrath, which patrolled the mid-rim and outer rim, with the Asserter serving as a major Imperial command ship. Coming in at roughly half the size of the Asserter-class Superstar Destroyer was the Mandator 4-class siege dreadnought used by the First Order. The massive warship measured 7,669.71 meters in length and carried an enormous complement of personnel: 53,000 officers, 140,000 enlisted crew members, and 22,000 stormtroopers stationed aboard. In terms of scale, that placed it at about the size of 5 Imperial Star Destroyers combined, but its real power came from its overwhelming weapon systems. The Mandator 4 was designed specifically for destruction on a massive scale. It carried siege-scale super-heavy turbo lasers capable of overpowering planetary shields and devastating city-sized targets. In addition, the ship mounted heavy turbo laser batteries used for capital ship bombardment, ion cannons capable of disabling entire defending fleets, and point defense laser cannons that protected the dreadnought from incoming starfighters. It was also equipped with concussion missiles and proton torpedoes, giving it an arsenal capable of overwhelming nearly any opposition. During the era of the Ancient Republic, the Krakana stood as a true titan among flagships. Measuring around 5,000 meters long, the vessel was roughly the length of 3 Imperial Star Destroyers with additional mass beyond that. It served as the flagship of Zim the Despot, a human male from Varl who rose to power as a ruthless warlord. This period of history came long before the refined warship designs seen during the Clone Wars, the Galactic Empire, or the First Order. Ships like the Krakana were built less with efficiency in mind and more as raw symbols of domination. The vessel represented an early form of proto-super capital ship design, appearing long before the concept of the Superstar Destroyer existed. More importantly, it helped establish the terrifying idea that control of entire systems could be achieved through sheer size and intimidation alone. That philosophy would later influence future warship design across the galaxy. Ironically, the Krakana also played a role in strengthening the Hutt's rise to power. Returning to the era of the Empire, or more accurately, the years just after its fall, the Eclipse-class dreadnought was constructed at Quat Drive yards, roughly 6 years after the Battle of Endor. These enormous vessels measured about 15 kilometers in length, making them larger than 10 Imperial Star Destroyers combined, and heavier in mass than any traditional Imperial warship. While the Eclipse class carried the usual heavy and light turbo lasers along with numerous other weapons, its most terrifying feature was the axial super laser. This weapon functioned similarly to the super laser used by the Death Star, but it had been scaled down significantly so it could operate aboard a ship of this size. Even so, the beam possessed enough power to shatter planetary shields and unleash catastrophic destruction on whatever lay beneath them. The weapon was also capable of obliterating other capital ships. In one infamous moment, the Eclipse used its super laser against the Imperial Star Destroyer Annihilator when Tiber Zan seized control of the dreadnought above Quat. However, even with its immense power, the ship ultimately proved too massive to conceal from enemy forces. After Tiber Zan used it to destroy both the Annihilator and a rebel vessel, the dreadnought was abandoned and left drifting in space above Quat. Not long afterward, a New Republic fleet composed of Mon Calamari and Corellian ships located the vessel and destroyed what remained of the Eclipse project. The Executor-class Star Dreadnought, better known as the Executor-class Super Star Destroyer, remains one of the most recognizable flagships from the era of the Galactic Empire. Measuring an enormous 19,000 meters in length, the vessel was roughly equivalent to 12 Imperial Star Destroyers placed end to end. The bridge itself was a colossal structure measuring 285 meters wide. It housed shield generators, briefing rooms, command stations, and escape pods for senior personnel. In terms of weapons, the Executor class carried more than 5,000 turbo lasers, including 750 twin heavy turbo lasers and 1,000 turret-mounted twin light turbo lasers. Its arsenal also included 125 assault concussion missile launchers, 100 twin battleship ion cannons, and 250 turret-mounted quad laser cannons. Beyond its direct weapons, the dreadnought served as a massive carrier platform. It housed roughly 1,000 starfighters organized into multiple squadrons, including TIE fighters, TIE bombers, and TIE interceptors. The most famous ship of this class was the Executor itself, which served as the flagship during the Battle of Endor, under the command of Admiral Piet. Throughout most of the battle, the colossal warship seemed nearly unstoppable, but in a moment that few expected, a single Rebel A-Wing starfighter, piloted by Arvel Crinid, crashed directly into the bridge, causing the massive dreadnought to lose control and collide with the second Death Star battle station. Continuing with Imperial superweapons, the Vengeance-class dreadnought measured approximately 10,000 meters in length, making it about the size of 6 Imperial Star Destroyers. Although smaller than some other dreadnought models, it still qualified as a super heavy capital ship despite not being formally classified as a Super Star Destroyer. This class featured a noticeably slimmer and narrower design compared to traditional Star Destroyers. Much of the dorsal hull was heavily armored, giving the vessel a dominant downward profile that also provided significant battlefield protection. The most well-known Vengeance-class vessel served as the flagship of the Dark Jedi and Imperial Inquisitor Jarek. He commanded the dreadnought until his death around 5 ABY. Beyond that, additional Vengeance-class ships later served within the Imperial Deep Core defense fleets, with 3 vessels deployed to help retake Core World's territories around 10 ABY. One of the most fascinating battle stations ever constructed was known as the Eye of Palpatine. The station measured an enormous 31 kilometers in diameter, making it roughly the size of 2 Death Stars combined. To conceal its true purpose, it was designed to resemble a massive asteroid, allowing it to drift through space without drawing suspicion. In many ways, it could even be considered the Empire's first true superweapon. The project began in secret around 18 BBY, funded through Imperial government resources that had quietly been diverted by Emperor Palpatine himself. The station was designed by Oron Kalor, an engineer who also contributed to the development of the Death Star. Officially, the Eye of Palpatine was classified as both a dreadnought and a battle moon, and it possessed the terrifying capability to carry out a base Delta Zero orbital bombardment. This meant it could bombard a planet so intensely that the upper crust would be reduced to molten slag. What truly set the station apart, however, was not just its size or firepower. The Eye of Palpatine was completely unmanned. Instead, it was operated by an advanced artificial intelligence known as the Will, ensuring that the station's location and existence could remain hidden from almost everyone in the galaxy. Despite the Empire's efforts to keep the project hidden, the station was eventually discovered by Jedi Knights Gaith Eris and Callista Ming. In a shocking turn of events, Callista Ming sacrificed herself to stop the station. She bound her own spirit to the Battle Moon's computer system, effectively trapping the Eye of Palpatine and preventing it from carrying out its destructive mission. The failure enraged Emperor Palpatine, who punished several Imperial officers for their involvement in the disastrous situation. Years later, in 12 ABY, the station was rediscovered after drifting through space in a dormant state. It was located by the Emperor's hand, Roganda Ismarin, who used her son, implanted with a subelectronic converter, to summon the hidden weapon. Once reactivated, the Eye continued its strange mission of collecting Imperial stormtrooper forces. However, it did so in a disturbing way. The station abducted individuals from various species across the galaxy and brainwashed them into believing they were loyal stormtroopers. Eventually, the dangerous battle station was finally destroyed by the Jedi student Nikos Mar. The Mega-class star dreadnought was known by several different names, but it is widely considered the largest warship ever constructed in the galaxy. The vessel measured an astonishing 60 kilometers in length, making it longer than 37 Imperial Star Destroyers placed end-to-end. Powering a ship of this magnitude required immense energy. The dreadnought relied on 6 massive fusion reactor centers, along with a hyperdrive system and 32 sublight engines. Its internal capacity was equally staggering. The ship could house approximately 2,225,000 personnel and had enough space to deploy massive numbers of starfighters, dropships, and ground vehicles such as all-terrain armored transports. One of the most infamous ships of this class was the Supremacy, which served as the flagship of the First Order. The massive vessel devastated numerous star systems during its time in service. However, one of the most dramatic moments in its history came during its pursuit of the Resistance cruiser Radis. In a desperate attempt to save the fleeing Resistance forces, Vice Admiral Holdo made a shocking decision. She piloted the Radis into hyperspace and rammed the Supremacy directly, slicing the enormous ship nearly in half. Even after suffering such catastrophic damage, parts of the vessel remained operational for a time. Eventually, the First Order Navy determined that the damage was too severe to repair. The once dominant flagship was abandoned and later scuttled after it was deemed beyond recovery. Yet even these colossal creations pale in comparison to the Yuuzhan Vong's mysterious world ships, known as Koros Strona. These massive vessels served as traveling habitats for entire Yuuzhan Vong communities. Unlike traditional starships made of metal, they were grown from yorick coral, a living material that formed symbiotic relationships with other organisms. This allowed the ships to generate their own propulsion, defenses, and weapons through biological systems. A typical world ship measured about 10 kilometers long and wide. Despite their size, they were densely packed with everything their inhabitants needed, including the ability to manufacture weapons using molten slag expelled from hundreds of yorick coral emplacements. Each vessel could house around 5,000 warriors, along with coral skippers and other biological war machines. Because they were living organisms, these ships had natural lifespans. Most survived at least 500 years, while some lasted nearly 1,000. One such vessel, Banu Mir, reached a millennium in age before it eventually lost the ability to travel faster than light, rather than being destroyed in battle. Driven by their hatred of conventional technology, the Yuuzhan Vong perfected the fusion of biological organisms into advanced systems. The result was the Koros Strona world ship, part battle station, part transport, part psychological weapon, and an entire mobile civilization that played a key role in their invasion of the New Republic. From living world ships grown from coral to city-sized dreadnoughts capable of leveling entire planets, the Star Wars galaxy has never been short on terrifying superweapons. Each of these vessels was built with a single purpose: overwhelming power. Whether it was the Empire's obsession with domination, the First Order's pursuit of fear, or the Yuuzhan Vong's living war machines, these colossal ships proved that control of the galaxy often came down to who possessed the biggest and most destructive fleet. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out more related content shown on screen.